Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Check 1, 2.
The best bites, cheap shots, and excuses from Saturday's postgame news conferences.
All right, welcome back. Sorry, I thought I couldn't hear. I thought that
Check
there was
1, 2.
reverb. Thought we were in the studio making a hit over here. Sound Roundup, brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. Happy shopping. Mitch, Harper, Alex, Kirry. It's 1st and 12. Our Big 12 focus, of course, as we get into some of the best bites from the entire week here. And my goodness, of course, it's hard to ignore Coach Prime and all the attention that he's getting. But they blow the doors off of Utah yesterday, and Coach Prime and his guys are primed to get themselves to not just the offseason, but how about getting to a college football playoff possibility? Certainly the Big 12 championship game looks like something on the horizon. Here's what he said after that win.
We're trying to get down the field and put the ball in the end zone, kicking it or running it or passing it. So we did that successfully quite a bit today, and we can't take none away from these young men because you guys understand the progress, and you understand that we haven't even put it all together yet. Like, we haven't even played our best game. That should be in itself scary. Like, man, when I said we coming, we still coming. We never stop coming. We are coming, and we ain't nearly there yet. God bless y'all. You good?
Oh, who is he asking that to? It made it sound like he was talking to just one guy. It was like his cousin. Sorry about that. God bless you. You good? It's like, my goodness, Coach Prime.
I have to disagree with Coach Prime. They played near perfect against UCF earlier this year. I think they've gotten better, but I don't know if he's like. I kind of disagree.
He's saying that Shedeur made some dumb mistakes. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? Like, he had that bad pick at the beginning. He had that stupid fumble that he didn't feel like diving on the turf to get because he's like, I don't really want to put myself out there. I don't know, but I think he's mostly just being critical of Shedeur. And the fact is that they made mistakes, they had turnovers, and they let Utah get some points off of those turnovers. And so, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
They didn't shut Utah out, but I don't think anybody's tuning in for Colorado just for their defense.
Well, I will say they have gotten better over the course of the season, and they are playing with a lot more confidence and belief because, they are playing some really good football. And I'm curious to see, you know that the Big 12 is cheering for Colorado to win this thing because they just bring so many eyeballs, and you hear that commentary, the we coming, like he's one of the few coaches that has taglines that everyone knows. He's so famous.
Right.
And Coach Prime, he's one of a kind, that's for sure.
Yep.
On the opposite end of the spectrum in the coaching universe in the Big 12 is Dave Aranda. You cannot get two completely different people, but Dave Aranda is on a roll right now, and his Baylor Bears clinched that 6th win, and most likely he secured his job security with Baylor. This was him after the Bears take down West Virginia.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I wish we wouldn't have given up that touchdown at the very end. I'd probably celebrate the bowl eligibility a little bit more than that, more than I am right now, I think there's a bunch of things we can do to get better, and we're going to have to get better to get these wins at the end of the season that we're capable of getting.
Dave Aranda, yep, they clinched bowl eligibility. That's good for them. I will say Baylor's been a shock this second half of the season. Good for them. I'm glad they did turn things around. I like Dave Aranda, and I think that Baylor needs to be one of those programs that needs to kind of shine. You got to have somebody in the middle of Texas who's going to play well if you're going to be in this big conference and doing things. And if you're going to have big brands in the conference, you got to have teams like Baylor show up. Kenny Dillingham, he's the head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, and they just beat Kansas State in Manhattan. And don't worry, because he had moved straight on in the post-game press conference to not just that game, but also the one that stood in front of him, which is, of course, BYU coming to Tempe next week.
I think we're pretty good. I think we're pretty good. But you don't know in today's era because of all the transfers. You don't know what the relative standard of good is anymore because everybody has new teams all the time. I think we're good. I think we got something. And this is a special group. I mean, this is a really special group, and it's kind of crazy when you think about this group, and then you think about, like I said, 35 to 44 guys have the ability to return, and that's even more special. But we got a big game this week versus BYU, And if the Valley's not activated now, I don't know what will.
That was the funniest clip of the entire week because I just imagine him. Like, you can't do a press conference and tell the guys to turn the music down for just 1 minute, or maybe do it in a room where we're not having to hear, the music as much as you can actually hear the coach. But Kenny Dillingham is like 29 years old and
34.
I know he's well. I know he's in his 30s, but I will
young.
say he looks young too. But when you see him on the sidelines and he's pumping his guys up, he walks over and individually goes over and hits guys on the helmet and goes, "Phenomenal job, great job." Like the head coaches that sit there all stifly on the sideline and have their arms folded and look straight forward, and instead he really celebrates these young men, and they're having an awesome year. I'm glad they're partying in the locker room afterward.
Well, and he brings up a great point too. If Arizona State fans can't get inspired to show up in Tempe for 8-2 Arizona State, 9-1 BYU, 2 top 25 teams clashing in Tempe, when are they ever going to get excited?
Yeah.
So this is going to be a huge stage next week. I can't wait for that game, and I love that BYU and Arizona State has some juice to it because I feel like that's a matchup that could be really, really good in the years to come in the Big 12 Conference, with it being a regional matchup and, those programs having some long time ago history back in the day, but I think it's a really good matchup, and I can't wait for that one next week. But huge win for Dillingham. I mean, To think where he inherited the program, Herm Edwards basically burned the house down,
right,
and he inherited an absolute mess.
Yeah, and ESPN still props him up on Sundays, and he was like,
"It's a joke.
Oh, let's get your analytics going here, Coach. You just cheated your way through not even winning at Arizona State. Tell us more." Kenny Dillingham. I mean, I don't know, of all the teams that have been like massive surprises, Arizona State might be the biggest one, even over Colorado and BYU. Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, I think we all thought they were going to be the very bottom of this whole thing. So
they were picked 16th, and I think that's what's fun about this league is that it shows you, man, if that's the 16th best team coming in, and look, people are knocking the media now, but it was so hard to pick this league and handicap
why would
it
you?
Because it was just a mixed bag of multiple leagues, like so hard to gauge. But now we're getting some real intel on these teams, and Arizona State. I mean, I don't know if they're a team that could win a playoff game. I don't know if I feel comfortable with something like that, but man, they're pretty dang good, and I think they're far farther along than much farther along than where I envisioned their rebuild would be in year 2 under Dillingham.
Let's take that break, and we'll get to hour number 2. BYU, of course, got their loss. Utah just lost their 6th in a row. Wild times up in Salt Lake City. We're going to break down that game. We'll hear from Kalani Sitake, of course, from BYU next hour as well. So much more to go. Second hour next of First and 12, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio.